but we were just talking about ideas of how to continue to promote with each other, because we all have youth academies. And we just were talking about, wouldn't it be dope if we have all these little competitions that we could be within a time frame, and then we can just pull them directly from our competitions to have like a championship,
Now, you brought it up when you were talking about like things like the Olympics, right? And so we're going into this 2024 Paris experience, and I don't necessarily want to ask you about that, but what I do want to ask you is, so I'm doing the research and I'm looking at what sports are going to be on the program, right? I see breaking, I see surfing, I see skateboarding, right? Cool. Then just for S&Gs, I'm like, you know what? Well, people have been talking about the LA one. Let me see what's going to be on the LA program. And so I look on the LA program and I see skateboarding and I see surfing, and no longer do I see breaking, right? So it's looking, as of this conversation, that breaking is going to be a one-off, pushed into the forefront by France, right? And I'm, from what I'm hearing in the discussions that I'm having, it's because a lot of it has to do with the fact that France has invested a whole lot of money into breaking, right? With big budget events. I mean, you've seen them over the years, these big French events with like stadium style crowds and so on and so forth. So it was really important for them. We don't have that here, right? We don't have those kind of big budget events like that for whatever reason. And a lot of people, to me, right, this is just me talking, a lot of people kind of expose themselves once this little golden nugget or this carrot came out, right? My question to you, if you are, in the know of like some of these issues that came about with this Olympic thing, do you think it was worth it? And it'd be a two-part question. Do you think that something, if the Olympics decides not to carry breaking anymore, do you think that something else would or should take its place?
That's a good question, man. I'm interested in knowing more about if it's only in the USA that they're deciding to not put it in, whereas like
right.
If we're looking towards 2032, right?
Yeah,
if
32.
Yeah. Back in or not?
Okay.
To know whether it's like a one-off or if it's just the country, or what it takes, if they can even wait this long before it becomes a sport. If the organization itself is waiting to see how it goes and see how it's being able to be run before they were to add it to the LA Olympics. I don't know if any of those details. If it were to just be a one-off, I think what it speaks to is, I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, because if we look at those large arena style, large scale events that have been happening in many countries overseas, right? It takes so much more for that to happen here in the US. They're so more far and few in between, right?
Right.
And I don't know if that's because just the connections to the culture here in America and hip hop and like the stigma that it has here in America, or if it has to do with the fact that, in other countries, they were able just to take the dance itself and only adopt the dance itself and create some sort of spectacle out of it. That's why they're able to create these shows and these big, large budgeted type of events, and we're not, because, but I mean, that it's really weird, because there's been a few things with the Olympics that have had something like this happen, right? Like not having representation from the USA in the very first year, and now if we're hearing this too, if it's being pulled for like in the country that it was created, what I'm saying? Like there are just little things that I'm curious. I feel like I should do a little bit more research on it myself before I can answer some of those questions. So it's hard to say if it's going to be worth it or not. And it's hard to tell too because of the outcome. I will tell you from the perspective of what I see in studio between my kids, and between just the overall perception of the public is I'm hearing it's about time. You know what I mean? They're like, it's about time that it's getting recognized as something that is like this, you know, like a sport, the athleticism that it actually takes to create some of these moves, do these moves on music, you know, to the music and all that kind of stuff. I feel like that in that small window of people that I'm seeing, it's gaining respect, which is cool, you know. But it's like, yeah, we done already been knowing this. Like, y'all should have already been knowing this, you know.
Right.
Kid doing it, you should already know. But like, so it's hard to say if it's going to be worth it or not, because I also have yet to see it be too detrimental to the scene or anything either. There hasn't been a real backlash on people saying like, that was so whack, it hurt the scene. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say. I guess it's still in we're not even halfway there yet. You know, from what I saw with the trials, it looked super competitive. It looked definitely not like a jam, way more like an organized competition. Saw a lot, you know, if you watch the crowd in some of the trial runs, some of the prelims, there were a lot more stone cold faces. There was there was, you know, no easy props, sure, but like, come on, y'all, these are the top ones of the country. Like, I know it's your competition, but like when you're doing a prelim and there's 90 competitors and they're only taking top 32, you're gonna kind of know where you're at when you're in there, I feel like. And at that point in time, why not give it up a little bit? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Go back to creating the vibe of like of an actual jam. And because a lot of the stuff I saw, of course, I wasn't there, and it's impossible to guess what the vibe is through a screen. But it just looked like everybody was checked out and in their own head of like, all right, what am I going to do? Like, not even actually being engaged with what was going on from the dancers right in front of you. And
wait, so these were, I don't mean to cut you off, these were dancers with these stone cold faces? Like, these were the competitors?
Because I feel like that's what it looked like. It was mainly competitors at that in the prelim run. Did you see them? It was like in that small room. I
actually didn't watch it. I have to go back and watch it. I actually didn't watch it. I just like saw that Phil and Victor were at the final.
Okay, so the first foot again. So this is just me telling you what I saw from footage. But the first rounds looked like they were in like a small little room with a pretty small circle, and everybody was kind of cornered. It looked like they were like in a half or a corner of a room, right? And it looked like it was only competitors there, because it was a really small like back room. So it looked like you could see maybe 80 to 100 people in there from the one angle that I could see. But so I assumed that it was a lot of dancers. I could recognize a few faces from who we usually see, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was the same thing. It was just a lot of like, you know, and that's just like like we are there. We are the ones that have control of the vibe of the jam. And if we're going to complain about how it's becoming a sport, and then when you're there, you just fall into the atmosphere of it to feel like a sport, it's only going to feel like a sport. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that was the one thing that I saw, was it didn't feel like there was a vibe. But then the final battles looked like it was a vibe, because again, it had the huge theater, you know, and it was on stage. They had the two hosts that they usually have for a lot of those
French jam
arena events. Yep. And like, so that felt more like what we're almost used to seeing now, you know. You hear there was a lot of commentator backlash, you know, but like, y'all, neither one of them break. So what do you expect? I feel like the one guy who I believe it was a poet or an MC, he spoke obviously much better to the culture than the older guy did, who said, you know, oh, the slide on, you know, this little slide on the noggin, you know, or whatever. Like, okay,
not the slide on the noggin.
Yeah.
Man.
But like, it's it's experimental. We're at that time, right? We can't expect immediate results. This is the first like big trial that actually had all the countries there. It was broadcast live for everyone to see on the Olympic channel. Like it's a work in progress. We know how everything is going to be a work in progress. You look at the first BC1 and then you look at the production of the BC1 now, it's night and day difference. So I think it's in its process, and I think we just need to respect the fact that it's in its process, and before we can really make too big of like permanent judgment.
Yeah, for sure. And like I've had in these conversations on the channel, regardless of the outcome, it's one lane out of the many lanes in breaking. It's not the lane, it's not overtaking some other lane. It's just another option. It's like, I can go to Cypher jams, I can go to competitions, I can go to now the Olympics. You know what I'm saying? So, one last thing I want to ask you before I let you go.
It's mind blowing, bro, that it can connect from the little borough. You know what I mean? And 50 years later, it's impacting so many people around the world, right? So
for more quality content from Beyond the Cypher with Illskillz, don't forget to press the like and subscribe buttons. Also, feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Beyond the Cypher. Let us know how we're doing in the comment section, and to make sure you don't miss anything from the channel, smash that notification bell. We appreciate the love and support. Peace. Until the next episode.